Just a few quick words of introduction. You see to my right a kind of a graphic that represents the timeline of this project. Started about 4 years ago, beginning actually before that with a number of what I would call incubated discussions with our sustainability committee, where the idea was put forward to take otherwise useless and already disturbed pieces of town property and turn them into something productive and useful, like a solar array. At the time, the then town engineer, Christine Fenton, suggested the site that's behind us, but we weren't sure because it was once a Superfund site and a capped landfill, how feasible that suggestion was. We learned very quickly that the DEC was encouraging just that, and with Christine's help, we established the fact that there was a mounting technology without penetrating the surface that would be feasible, and we could proceed. So from there, we went into an action plan, and a number of town staff at that point, Mr. Tom Houghton, who I know is here, but he's hiding. There he is, in the back of the room there. Tom was part of the process, and we began to investigate contractors or developers that would handle a project of this nature. We put together a little screening committee that included myself and Janice Shearer from the Land Management Department, Tom, and Christine for a short while before she left the town, former Councilman John Bouvier, and Lynn Arthur representing the Sustainability Committee. The RFP was a challenge to create because we as a town had no experience with that. But at the time, we were working very closely with Jewel Assets, represented this afternoon by Mr. Mike Gordon, and they were instrumental in putting together an RFP that was quite demanding of the contractors, or in this case the developers, to respond to the needs of the town. They brought to us an expertise that we otherwise did not have, but a refinement that allowed us to pick a developer that met all of our benchmarks. The primary ones being that they had expertise and experience with building arrays like this one on capped landfills or landfills in general, and had the management and technological experience in order to complete the project. And through that process, we interviewed all of the 7 applicants and recommended Kearsarge, represented here today by hiding behind me, and they've been behind me the whole time, so I appreciate that. Dan Voss and Andrew Bernstein will say a few words in a few moments. And so what you're looking at is I think my direction is right, the south end. The south end of the solar array. It goes over to the next cell. It's about 11,500 individual panels, and it produces somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4.7 kilowatts of energy. That amount of energy is suitable to provide 773 homes with energy. It's not going directly to those homes, but as an analogous point, there's enough energy being produced to supply that many households, which is quite an accomplishment. There are economic and sustainability benefits to this. The economic ones are important, but the more important ones are the sustainability ones, where we are producing energy into the grid of a renewable nature, which is sorely in need of renewable energy supply. We're also taking a landfill that was otherwise unpredictable or unproductive, and not to be too corny, but it was in fact a wasteland, serving no purpose to the town except putting a lot of burden on Mr. Houghton's department to monitor it and provide reports to the DEC. This provides a number of benefits above and beyond certainly what it was before. If you have your program, there's also a little insert to the program which talks about the history of the entire site, which we'll mention a little bit later, but it also provides us what I think is a kind of graphic illustration of what you're looking at looked like in around 1975, which was a pile of household garbage, and what it looks like today, which is a productive facility not only for the community and the town, but for the Long Island grid. The other important factor that I want to highlight and get back to at some point is one of the criteria we had is we wanted a developer who would make an effort to seek out local contractors, local construction, engineering, and electrical contractors on Long Island, so that we would be creating jobs for Long Island organizations that could help this. And they did in fact follow through that, in my estimation, 100%. And some of those contractors are here today. I'm going to forget the name. Kurt, I remember you, but they've done an outstanding job. When they put their shovels in the ground, it was the question metaphorically asked all the time is, where's the finish line? And the finish line is right behind us, so we owe a great deal to their commitment to the task and the expertise that they brought. But no project like this one is the effort of one individual, certainly not one group of individuals. Important throughout the whole process, although this started 4 years ago, over 2 administrations and 2 sets of council people. Their support is important and crucial, but we had that over a period of time, and some of those people are represented here today. I want to recognize Mr. John Bouvier, former councilman, and former supervisor Jay Schneiderman, who were instrumental in supporting this project at its inception and through the latter years of their role in the administration. And then the project, from a political perspective, was picked up by our current board, represented here today by Supervisor Moore and Councilman Iacilli and Councilwoman McNamara. And I've asked Maria if she would take a few minutes and make a few comments for today. Maria?
Yes. Thank you, Frank.
I'll leave that
All right. Well, I'm so pleased that this day has finally arrived, and it's been a lot of years in the making and a lot of teamwork went into it. I've got some facts here that that are so interesting. I want you to hear that this 131-acre North Sea municipal site was first used as the landfill back in 1963, and since then it's been remediated, transformed, and updated to include the SYS facility built 20 years ago. 4 years ago, the town and the community began the necessary research and planning to build the solar facility that we're celebrating here today. And now we're dedicating this renewable energy, having worked with Kearsarge and many other local contractors, transforming the adjoining 17-acre decommissioned landfill with a 5-megawatt solar array that's capable of producing 8.6 million kilowatts per year. The site's being leased by Kearsarge for the next 20 years and will produce renewable energy with an option to renew for another 5. And during this period of time, the town will earn $1.65 million in non-taxpayer revenue. But in addition, we'll also earn no energy cost bill credits, substantially reducing our energy costs for decades. And we'll also be sharing these energy bill credits with approximately 500 residents who will see a 10% reduction in their monthly electric bills. And the solar array will benefit the LIPA grid on the east end, providing much needed energy to a high demand critical load pocket of town residents. So, and interestingly enough, the solar array will result in a reduction of over 5,000 tons of CO2. So it's so important in so many regards. It's an impressive project and one that, many thanks to a lot of people. And I'll just read a few names. The current town board members: Michael Iacilli, Rick Martell, soon to be sworn in, Cindy McNamara, Bill Pell, and then the former town board members, Jay Schneiderman, John Bouvier, Tommy John Stivoni, of course, Frank Zappone, who I don't think this would have happened without Frank. He was so diligent and focused. And our Deputy Supervisor, John Ortiz, the current Deputy Supervisor, Tom Houghton, Janice Shear, Mark McRedmond, Christine Fenton. I mean, the Sustainability Committee, of course, led by Dieter and Lynn Arthur. Jewel Assets, Kearsarge. And Andrew Bernstein is here with us today, and I think we'd like to say a few words. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Andrew's responsible for bringing this big scissors
Oh,
and the ribbon.
okay.
So we're gonna. I don't want him to feel like he wasted his trip here. So we want to take advantage of that. Maria, would you do the honors?
Sure. Oh, sorry. What about, who's sharpen these? Thank you. Oh,
You want to cut pieces, Maria?
yeah, we should do that. Make a ribbon.
Just keeping things moving along, I want to introduce Councilman Iosili, who is a sitting council person right now and has helped continue to move the project along from administration to administration. Michael?
I'll be quick. It's great to be with everybody here. And I want to thank again, a round of applause to Frank Zappone for all of his efforts. 11,000 plus solar panels that are going to help really do something wonderful in the town of Southampton. Thanks to all the work of the Sustainability Committee. Thanks to Thomas Houghton, our town engineer, Janice Shearer, planning director. Really, and the previous board led by Jay and John and Tommy John. This was just such a great effort, spearheaded 4 or 5 years ago, and now we see the fruits of that labor, and it's just wonderful to see that really we are taking a great leap toward a sustainable future in the town of Southampton. This is an example of that. And in addition to that, we're also going to be helping ratepayers be able to afford their utility bills, up to 8 to 10% off of their bills. And that's just wonderful. And I want to just have everybody take a look. We have Republicans and Democrats here. We are faced with the challenge as policymakers of how do we control for the rising costs that many working families are facing. You see here a great partnership on both sides of the aisles trying to get it done through sustainable efforts. So thank you so much, and thank you, Maria and Cindy. Really appreciate working with you.
I'll just be quick because Jay always told me you never give up the opportunity to speak at an event. There's been thank you to Frank, and I know he will never toot his own horn, but really there was a lot of pushback on this project, and we've seen other solar projects in the town that didn't go through because of community pushback. Frank really, spent I don't know how many nights going to community meetings and, making sure the community was a part of this from day one, that they were comfortable with what was happening. It's a capped landfill, and people had real concerns. Frank alleviated those concerns and really, really did the job of the community outreach to get this project through. So I just want to thank Frank.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Just to point out, we have some of those community members right here.
Oh, yeah.
Myron, thank you. And thank you both.
I know Janice was here.
Janice just walked in.
Janice!
So, there you go. You disappeared. Thank you, Janice. I next want to introduce Andrew Bernstein. Andrew is the managing partner for Kearsarge, who is the developer for this project. And I have to say, and I'll say this about Andrew and Dan, who'll say a few words later, Dan Voss, that I've worked on a lot of projects, but I've never had the opportunity to work on a project like this one with partners that were so very much involved. Andrew and certainly Dan were boots on the ground whenever they needed to be on the ground, and they were always always a phone call away. And that made my life a lot easier because I had their backing, and I appreciate that, and I want to thank them publicly for that. Thank you. Andrew?
All right, thank you. I don't want to take credit for anything except for two things. One, Frank told me it was going to rain. I said, I guarantee it won't rain today. And two, I think this project helped expedite Frank's retirement. So I want to just take a little bit of credit for that. But in all seriousness, we've done north of about 80 projects overall. And this project, without exaggeration, was one of the best. I think Frank and team and Lynn and Tom and everyone really helped work and make this project happen. And it's projects like these are not straightforward. There's some challenges. PSE&G, Verizon all came together, but there's always challenges with different approaches. So this is a good sized solar project, and I think it's a really important project. But everyone, and I think it's really true what Frank just said, we called him up a lot. He gave us his cell phone, working with Mark and John and the rest of the attorneys, and everyone worked through this as a partnership. So we were really pleased to be part of this. And I think, echoing some of the remarks, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, whatever, this is a project that makes sense for everyone. And total costs on this were probably about $15 million, and we brought in community banks to finance the debt side. Kearsarge does what's called the sponsor equity, and then you have the tax credits. And a project like this, over time, is just a positive from every aspect. And the tax credits, when you look at even fossil fuels, which are always have had tax credits, so it makes sense. I think one of the challenges that we see with solar is it takes a lot of land. So if you can find a place like this, which is underutilized land, it's perfect. And I think working with the state too. But people might not know that Southampton rewrote the bylaws for this project, which took a lot of time. So a lot of people involved in putting that together. On this state side, for DEC, they just rewritten some of the rules on how you put solar on top of capped landfills. But I think really that the town has been a leader, and we hope to see more projects that'll come from this. Our Kearsarge team, Dan spent a lot of time here, I think in the summer too, but I'm not really sure. It's coming down here, and Pat Fennessy and the rest of the team, and our partners in construction, certainly Eldor, which is a leading contractor in Long Island, took a real interest in this project and made it happen and got it done ahead of schedule. And then we just needed to finish it out with hooking up with utilities. But I think it's evidence that really public-private partnerships can work. And long-term for an organization like Kearsarge, we finance it. It's like building a building. We don't see positive returns on this till after about 6 or 7 years. So you're putting up all the capital you need to finance it. So it makes sense. And a project like this is a great example. There's really no noise, no moving parts, no pollutants, and it's very quiet. One of my favorite stories was at a planning board, and I'm the founder of Kearsarge, and I don't know, it's been a while, probably 15 years, and I went to a planning board, and there was a woman who stood up and said, I don't think you should put a solar project up. She said, it's very dangerous, and I have a cat, and at night, my cat's a nocturnal animal, and it's going to be out there, and it could get injured. So the board turned to me and said, what do you think? I said, well, quite honestly, there's not very much sunlight at night, so I think it's going to be okay as part of it. But it's been a long road overall. So we're very pleased with this, and I think is just thanking the team, and I think Frank really deserves all the credit for making this happen, although I think he's modest. But over 20 years, and one of the things you look at is a normal house uses maybe 8 to 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. you're going to see 158,000 megawatt hours. So that's 1,000 times it. So you're generating power that's quite significant. And you're going to see that this is really representing the equivalent, as people said, of powering 14,000 homes, but it's avoiding the combustion of about 11 million gallons of gasoline. So these things make sense in the long term. And I think if you can find the right sites, you don't want to be putting up sites where, you're going to lose a lot of trees. But so with that, I'll thank our team and everyone. And we have the group that helped is going to manage allocating the credits. Ryan from Meadow, certainly Jewel, which worked with the town to put the whole thing together. But I'll let Dan, who oversaw construction, give a couple details.
Sure.
Thanks, Andrew. It's a little bit overcast, but we're in the Hamptons, so I'll take it. Pretty nice overall. So building a landfill solar project is tricky business at the best of times, and building it in the Hamptons on a Superfund site during the summer with summer traffic, and then throw in some firsts like navigating a new regulatory process with the state, and you get to this point in the project and you breathe a well-deserved sigh of relief. I like to use this quote, which I'm sure all of you know, but unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And for the Southampton project, it's fair to say that a lot of folks cared a whole awful lot to get us to today. And I'm going to call out a few folks. You've heard Frank obviously has been critical and instrumental, a great partner of ours. Tom, I can only describe him as resilient. I'm not really sure how he does what he does on a daily basis for this town, and then steps up and supports us in this project in the way he has. So thanks very much, Tom. And John, more recently, you've been very. Oh, where'd John go? Oh, in the back. You've been critical in getting us to the point where today, as we sit here, we're generating and generating power for the citizens of Southampton. Once we got to the point of breaking dirt on this project, we really handed over the reins and worked in partnership with our outstanding construction partner, Eldor Contracting, who similarly then worked with XCAV services to deliver what you see behind us. Two local family-owned companies from Long Island who working with a bunch of folks from, I'll call out a few of the teams they're working with here, the operating engineers, Local 138, the labourers, Local 66 and 1298, and then the Local 25 IBEW electricians. Got this project delivered on time, in fact, a little bit ahead of time and on budget for their scope of work, which is, I won't say it's rare, but they took on the challenges of the project. They took on the challenges of traffic in Southampton in the summer, and they managed it. They absorbed it, which is rare. So I would say outstanding partners, and a real credit to the community. Around about $15 million is probably close to the price tag for a project like this. About 2/3 of that made its way into the local community here in terms of wages and local materials supplied for this project. So a real credit to XCAV and Eldor in getting this done and supporting the local community. And so what did they do with all that money that we gave them? So Bob and team started out the XCAV crew. So I think we got Bob and Debbie here, and Dylan, who was the third key member of that crew, is off working today at his dad's house. Who is Bob? They moved about 10,000 tonne of stone up onto the cap to start the project. That's the equivalent of covering a football field and about 2 feet of stone. They then picked up about 1,400 ballast blocks, about 6,000 pounds each, and loaded them up onto the cap. That concrete, those ballast blocks were generated locally. It's about 12 Olympic pools worth of concrete. Now, if you're wondering what 15,000 tons, equates to, it's I've been told 3,000 adult elephants, and so that's what those guys moved up onto the cap to prepare it for the team from Eldor. Kurt's here, Joe's here. I don't think Keith's here today, but Joe with his offside Max then took about 16,000 pieces of steel, like a big piece of like a big Lego project, and as we've heard today, about 11,500 panels, and connected them with over 100,000 bolts and washers to create what you see up the top. It doesn't work unless you connect it all up, and that's the 91 miles of electrical conductors that their team ran across the cap in about a mile of cable tray to connect those panels to the poles and wires you see leaving the landfill. So an incredible job done by the team, and throughout it all, Blake, sitting in the front here, has been the representative from Western and Sampson. He's been the steward to make sure nothing happened to the landfill, to make sure it was safe and sound. And in fact, tomorrow he's going to be doing a site walk with the NYDC just to do their final site walk of the site. So a team effort, a really great effort, and having started with the Lorax, I'm gonna take one from Jane Goodall here, where she would like to say, when she talked to folks, what you do makes a difference, and you really have to decide what that difference is. What that difference is that you're going to make. I think today's ceremony, represents a decision by a whole bunch of people here to make a better, cleaner, more resilient, sustainable future for Southampton. We couldn't be more thrilled to be a partner in that, and in helping to make it happen. And we can't wait for the next project where we get to bring this crew together and build more renewable energy on Long Island. I'm looking over at the CIS facility over here. It looks like it could use some rooftop solar. So maybe that's the next one. But with that, I'll hand it back to Frank. And actually, why don't we just give everyone a round of applause again for a great job done. And it's not yet available, I think, on a public website, but there's a monitoring system that I've got on my phone here that's telling me that we're cranking out at full capacity despite the clouds right now, and in a couple of weeks it'll be even higher still once we get through commissioning. So it's doing its job. All right, cheers.
Thank you, Dan. I also want to take a few moments to thank once again Jewel Assets. Again, the prescription for all of this began with the RFP, and the criteria that were in the RFP that brought to us Kearsarge as a developer. And from day one, the people who were on that screening committee, Janice and Tom and Christine, who unfortunately hoped to be here today, but she couldn't, and Lynn Arthur on the sustainability committee, we agreed almost instantly that Kearsarge was the developer of choice. And now 4 years later, I'm convinced that we made the absolute correct decision in bringing them on board. So I want to publicly thank them again, but I also want to introduce Mr. Mike Gordon of Jewel, who some of you have met because over the years he's spoken to the board any number of times. Michael, do you want to say a few words, please?
I hope.
Okay, then you can sit down now.
I just a couple of numbers that I got a little bit from you, Dan. 70 jobs. I think that's incredible. Frank looked at 492 sites in Southampton. We narrowed them down together to 19, then 3, then 1. Just incredible amount of work, and also staging for the future prospectively, Dan. And then, Lynn, when we really together committed to making sure that the beneficiaries were the people in the community, started with the low-income folk. 30% of the entire project is benefiting low-income folk, and then kept it local, not just the town buildings, but another entirely well-subscribed project entirely within the town. Incredible in terms of the local ethic and the amount of diligence that has gone in here. Thank you. It's been a total pleasure to participate in this.
Thank you, Mike. So I just want to conclude with a couple of perhaps redundant but not overdone thank yous to individual. First of all, I want to thank the past and current board members for their continuing support. Projects like this often transcend different boards because they take some time. And I can remember back to the day that we had a similar ceremony when we opened Good Ground Park. Jay had just been newly elected as a supervisor, and he came to me and he said, my name is on that plaque, but I didn't really have anything to do with this project." Well, you probably had more to do with it than you remember, Jay. But the fact is that the people who sit in the political chairs of a town like this, no matter whether it's short term or long term, their support is always needed. And when you get 100% support from all of those members across party lines, as Michael indicated earlier, and from election year to election year, that's an unmeasurable asset. And I want to thank you all again for that level of support. I also want to do a double shout out to Tom. Keeps moving around. Moving target's hard to hit, but we face some significant challenges on a day-to-day basis, particularly from a logistic and engineering perspective. And I think Dan was correct; those would not have been resolved as promptly and, quite frankly, as elegantly without the insight and the expertise of Tom Houghton. So I want to do another shout out to Tom. One of the unsung heroes of this situation, and I find it a little awkward saying that about an attorney, but I want to thank Mark McRedmond, who's here today, because Mark's diligence in looking at every piece of paper that came across his desk, and there were many, and worked closely with the attorneys from Kearsarge to protect the town, but also solve the problem and keep the project moving forward. And Mark's diligence in that regard, and his even-handed approach to it, and his commitment to making sure that everything was done correctly, is beyond admirable. So I want to thank Mark. I can't say enough about what the contractors have done. The details around that Dan supplied you with, but the proof is in the looking. And if you look at what's behind you, you know that it took a masterful effort, and that they delivered. So thank you, gentlemen, and thank all of your employees and staff who worked on this. I also would be remiss in not thanking some of the utilities who are important to this. You can build the most elegant and productive solar array, but if you can't connect it to the grid, then you've created a thing of beauty, but a useless thing of beauty. So I want to thank LIPA, Michael, right? Is it Mike? Michael and Bill. Michael from LIPA and Bill from PSE&G. I've not had the opportunity to work with Michael, but Bill is always a phone call away and has been very, very helpful in keeping the communication lines open between the town and PSE&G. So thank you both. Second to last, a project like this one is very beneficial. The benefits are obvious, but some of the benefits that are not so obvious is, what did we learn? from going through this effort over a period of 4 years? Well, I think we learned two things at the very least. One, the town learned that we can do a project like this. It's not impossible, and other municipalities can do the same. I know that there's a representative of the our local legislator here, Ann, and maybe you can take that message back to our county executive that there are properties around the county and in the LIPA service area beyond the county where a project like this can be replicated. They don't require town or municipal leadership, but they go better if you have that. So I want to encourage that message to go beyond this conversation today. And we've also learned that the town can improve the way it manages such projects. We learned a lot, as Dan pointed to. We helped create a new set of rules, and they were new for everybody. But there were times where we were learning as we were doing. That's not the most expeditious process, because at the end of the day, if you hold on to those lessons, it was worth the effort. And lastly, I want to observe from my own personal perspective that our partners, LIPA and PSE&G, and also Verizon, who was part of this project, I think what they've learned is that if we're going to have projects like this, particularly in the Suffolk County area, where land is scarce, and you can't build many 50 megawatt or 75 megawatt arrays like this, it's a series of small projects like this one, which are going to help LIPA, PSEG achieve their objective of infusing more renewable energy into their power supply and into the grid. It can only be done that way. But I think it also, to accomplish that, we all, including our utility partners, have to look at how our processes and our technologies can help that process move expeditiously. Projects like this are excellent projects, in my opinion, but they shouldn't take 4 years. I think we could do it in less time, and I think if we all take away lessons from this particular project, the next one will take less time. And I think that would be a benefit for everybody, particularly for our community. And lastly, one little ceremonial thing. It's been the practice of the town for many years to look at projects that it has completed successfully and to recognize those projects by a series of displays that are hanging in the town boardroom. Those projects are usually presented to the current sitting board, and I'm going to take a moment and share that with our board members here. But they really represent the men and women who started in the project, in this case 4 years ago, and stuck with it day in and day out. I mentioned before, the support of any board is always essential. It's absolutely important. But if it were not for the men and women, some of them who are here today, Janice and Tom and Mark and Lynn and other town staff that are here, if they were not there to tend to that garden on a daily basis, we'd have no fruit to enjoy at the end of the day. So I want to thank them and recognize their accomplishment by, and we have to take a short walk, Maria, if you don't mind, because they tied the plaque to the pole and it can't be moved. So I'm going to ask Michael. Gee, our town engineer has a little pocket knife. How surprising. Here we go. We're gonna get everybody.
Pauline, did you put this together?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. It looks beautiful.
There are similar plaques in the town hall. This one will be mounted there in the next couple of days. I'm going to leave that to the trusting hands of Colleen. But it represents the start of the project, what the landfill looked like prior to the beginning. Some of the processes, the excavation and the mounting of the racks, and then the final array, which you see a small portion of right about here, but the entire site is quite special. And if you like as I do, visit the transfer station on a regular basis, you'll get a kind of a bird's eye view. So you won't have to carry this back in your hip pocket, Maria. We'll get it back to town hall for you. But thank you.
Thank you.
That is so nice. I don't think it's really nice.
Yeah, you want to hold it?
Yeah.
Coloring? Thank you.
There's also refreshments over there.
Yep. So thank you all for coming. I'm glad Andrew was right. Finally. No, that's a joke in poor taste. But thanks to Kearsarge, we have some hot coffee and some refreshments, of which if you don't get there first, I'm going to drink most of. To our left here, thank you all for coming, and thank everyone again for their effort in making this happen.
Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Thank you.